He's gonna have to either take him or stay home for Christmas.
All right, welcome everyone.
Recording in progress.
Oh, sorry. See, I told you I'd forget. Welcome everyone. It's 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this 21st day of November 2023. I would ask everyone to please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead us?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and your support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of our community. We ask for peace in the warring countries. Bless the sick, the injured, and those who have passed as we pray for an end to the conflicts that exist today. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As always, Mark, thanks. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Kotrick,
Here.
Krug is present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal, Tucker's absent. You have 6 members present.
Thanks, Bob. I'd like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, our Operations Manager Tom Broker, and Zoning Administrator Mike Deem are also present. Additionally, the following Township officials are present virtually via Zoom: our Township Assessor Julia Wilson and Township Engineers Alan and Melissa Lawrence. Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes, to the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded to be shown on Public Access TV, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are 3 public hearings during which public comment will be accepted. One for the Glades Street Lighting Special Assessment, a community development block grant needs hearing, and a public hearing on the 2024 budget. All other public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you call the roll?
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, the agenda stands approved as presented. Moving on to the next business order, which is the meeting minutes. Included in the packet are the meeting minutes from the November 6th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to the these meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $481,006.72 for payment.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Reed,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
I vote yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. All right, moving on to public hearings. This is the Glades 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District hearing on special assessment roll. This is a public hearing on the special assessment roll for the Glades 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District. The estimated cost of the project is $1,084 for street light installation. Of that is $980 per year for operation and maintenance of the street lights plus administrative cost. The developer of the project has already paid upfront the installation of the street lights, leaving an assessment of $85.15 per parcel for 2023. That does include the recovery of township administrative cost. The estimated annual assessment beginning in 2024 is $28 per parcel. The board will now accept comment on the following: the individual's assessment in relation to the benefit received, the total cost of the project, the validity of the proceedings to date. I will now open the meeting for public comment. Tom, is there any written comments?
None.
All right. Moving on, is there anyone present that would like to address the board, but it would be addressing the board only on the Glades 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District? Or hearing none, I'll move on.
We have
You got a
one.
hand.
Oh,
Right there.
I'm very sorry, ma'am. Would you like to come up? No, I'm sorry. I looked out, I didn't see your hand. Would you mind approaching?
Actually, we just have a couple questions.
I still need
Yeah,
you to
but
come up.
we need to record it and hear you.
You can pull that mic down too. I'm sorry.
You're losing tonight.
Actually, I mean, we're gonna go over where they're going to be and that, you know, where the lights are going to be in this meeting.
We have a diagram, we can get a copy for you.
Okay, that's really what we,
Consumers has already determined where they're going.
okay, because we wanted to make sure that there was something at the entrance.
There is. They
There
added-
is.
They
Because
added one
it's
there.
so dark there.
Yeah, they added one at the entrance.
Okay, and how many are we getting?
10.
10. Okay, that's all I had. I just was questioning how many. Hmm? Oh, yeah, when? Do you know when they're gonna do it?
Actually, I got a voicemail last week. They may be starting as early as the week of the 4th.
Yeah, I was
Oh.
gonna say, well, it's the first week after Thanksgiving, so
Yeah,
it's the 4th.
Great.
I think they're, when we first started the process, they said it'd probably be after the first of the year. But apparently they've got room in their schedule, so they should be in before Christmas.
Great, because it's very dark back there. All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else that's attending or here present? All right, we'll move on to Zoom. Is there anybody?
Vince, you need to get her name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't get your name for the record.
Pam Turner.
Pam Turner. Thank you, Pam. All right, is there anyone attending by Zoom that would like to address the board? Don? Unmute your mic. All right, I'll take that as a no. I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. Okay, resolution number 2023-48. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes, designates the role as Fenton Township Special Assessment Role 2023-06. Confirms the role as a special assess role for Glades 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District. Establish an annual installment in the role, each due and payable on December 1st. Pardon me. Assigns a 1% per month penalty for late payments, directs the treasurer to collect the assessments, repeals any conflicting resolutions. I will move the resolution.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Cotrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Gopel,
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
resolution passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under public hearing is the 2025 to 2027 Community Development Block Grant Program Community Needs Public Hearing. Fenton Township will receive approximately $101,000 in community development block grants. That's CDBG funds for the 2025 to 2027 funding cycle. The purpose of this hearing is to discuss potential uses of the funds. Operations Manager Roque, will you kind of briefly go over the potential projects?
Sure. We've had a couple of meetings with Genesee County staff to identify potential projects. One of the documents in your packet is the low mod area map for the township. And what that means is any project done within that area, it automatically is eligible. So we kind of focused our efforts there. The three projects we want to formally mention as part of the hearing are one is continuation or restarting of the senior scholarship program through Southern Lakes, where we would get roughly $5,000 per year that could go toward program fees for seniors at Southern Lakes Parks and Rec. It was very successful a couple of years ago, and so they asked if we would consider doing that again. So that's one. And then two road improvement projects within the eligible area. One would be resurfacing Butcher Road, which is getting a lot of cracks. It's potential for that. It wouldn't be enough to do the whole road, but we could apply it. The other one would be a little more complicated, but Firestone Drive is, I believe it's probably 40 to 50-year-old pavement there now. And the only way we could apply the money we have available, but it would have to be part of a special assessment district. So the residents would have to actually want to do that. And we haven't had any inquiries from them, so I don't know how much interest there would be. But those are the three projects we've identified as potential projects that would definitely be eligible. Once we've accepted public comment, if there's any other potential ones, then we'll bring back a recommendation to the next meeting as far as which ones we want to submit for the pre-application process.
Thanks, Tom. All right, we will first accept input from the public. You may express community development needs, proposed projects and/or comments on past CDBG projects. Once the public comment is concluded, we will conduct further discussion among our board members. I will now open up the meeting for public comment. Is there anyone here present that would like to address the board on the 2025 to 2027 Community Development Block Grant Program? Hearing none, I will move on to Zoom. Is there anybody attending via Zoom that would like to address the board? All right, hearing none, I will now close the public comment. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. Okay, recommendations for project pre-application submissions will be presented and discussed at the December 5th board meeting. Moving on next under the next public hearing is Fenton Township 2024 budget hearing. The proposed 2024 Fenton Township budget was distributed to the board prior to the November 6th meeting. It has been available for review at the township since that time. Operations Manager Broker, will you provide a brief overview?
Yes. I won't go line by line. You got the memo outlining the significant differences between projected 23 and proposed 24. We've got, the tax revenue based on taxable value increases and new construction. Let's see. The drain expenditures are going to be quite a bit lower due to a special assessment project that was funded in 23. Decrease in road expenditures due to the Hogan Road Bridge project being done this year, as well as the Enid Boulevard special assessment project. So the bottom line is the proposed general fund budget includes a projected surplus of about $277,000, subject to change as we may want to do more with roads, but right now we're just kind of flatlining it until we have a chance to meet with the road commission. Fire fund, no major changes. Projecting an unrestricted fund balance at the end of the year of $326,000. We did decrease the revenue in the Lake Improvement Special Assessment Fund. Both Lake Fenton and Byram Lake did not need to levy their final installment of their 5-year special assessment. They had enough left over to cover next year's treatment, so we did drop that. Solid waste, revenues are up a little due to new homes, and the contract price goes up a little bit this year. We're still projecting a minor surplus in 24. We should have a minor, slight deficit in the following 2 years to bring it back even. So, mosquito, $30,000 decrease to expenditures because this year was quite a bit over budget. We're hoping it's not a repeat for next year. Weather will obviously play a role in that, and then the projected surplus is still about $49,000. In the sewer fund, $117,000 increase to federal grant revenue for CDBG funded projects that are planned. $300,000 decrease in user fee revenue due to a projected rate reduction late next year, and a $100,000 decrease to operating expenditures due to sewer line breaks and excessive power outages this year. So the proposed sewer fund budget has a projected negative cash flow of about $68,000 for the year, but still strong cash reserve balance at year end. And the water fund budget is still kind of a best guess estimate at this time. We haven't started connections yet for phase 1, So we'll update the budget as we learn more throughout the year. The dog park fund budget is unchanged from '23. Private road, street light, special assessment funds are based on current special assessments and projected expenses. And then, other than that, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions from the budget.
All right, let's move on to, I'll now open up the meeting for public comment on the proposed 2024 township budget only. Tom, I'm sure there's no written comments.
None.
All right, is there anyone here present that would like to address the board on the 2024 budget, township budget? Hearing none, we'll move on to Zoom. Is there anyone attending via Zoom? Don? I'll take that as a no. I will now close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right. Okay, resolution number 2023-49, a general appropriations act resolution to formally adopt the 2024 Fenton Township budget. Clerk Krug, will you please present the resolution?
Yes, thank you. Designates the supervisor and chief administrative officer and the clerk as the fiscal officer. Sets forth the estimated revenues and expenditures for each fund, which feeds back to the budget spreadsheet. Adopts the budget by reference and for general fire, sewer, water fund, and that's adopted by the budget department or activity. Gives the chief administrative officer specific transfer authority, requires the periodic fiscal reports to the board, requires proper budget monitoring, and I'll move the resolution.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Kessler.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Kotrick,
Yes.
Tucker's absent, Gopal.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thanks, Bob. All right, next business orders reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to communications. We have none this evening. Next is adoption of ordinance. This is proposed zoning ordinance amendment, public access launch sites, second reading and the vote on the adoption. Our zoning administrator, Mike Deem, is here. Will you review?
Based on our discussion at the last meeting, we offered a revision to the proposed ordinance, focusing on item E, which was the new addition to section 11.49C, public access launch sites. So E would now read, the planning commission may conduct an analysis of the body of water, including size, capacity, and existing water usage, to limit or prohibit motor or engine size in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and limit the environmental impact of a public access launch site. So as you remember, as we talked last time, right, we had an amendment to this section of the ordinance that is essentially being driven by a proposed, or soon to be proposed, kayak and canoe launch on Hogan Road at the Water and Waste Treatment Facility. That property is zoned ag, which is why we would be adding the agricultural zoning district to places where a public boat launch or public access launch site would be allowed. But part of the discussion of the planning commission was concerns about, depending on the body of water itself, not all boats are appropriate on all bodies of water, and having the flexibility and the justification to limit the types of boats that would be allowed, depending on the body of water itself. So the Shiawassee River could potentially have restrictions on it that the lake itself wouldn't. So that's the purpose behind that revision. I know John's not here again, but I did talk with him about it, and it was based on comments that we had. So I'm here to answer any questions you guys have on that.
Were there
Mike.
anybody opposed, Mike? At the planning commission?
No. In fact, when we've had people in support trying to, move this along so that we have the ability to make an application. So the keepers of the Shiawassee River have the ability to make an application, right, for a
Okay.
boat launch.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
And it's more of a, Panemus Estate Lake,
Okay.
okay. Where does it become our yes or no or blessing to determine whether this goes in or not?
So, under the zoning ordinance, right, public access launch site is a special use permit.
Understand that, but I mean, we don't have any say over what happens at a public access launch site on Panema, correct?
Right, because those are DNR facilities.
That's what I'm
Well-
saying, and it's DNR, I'm just
But I
asking,
guess
how do
the-
we take control of the Shiawassee River at Hogan Road, whereas the state has control of Lake Panema at the access, mile upstream?
So if a new DNR launch site were to come into the township, they'd have to comply with the zoning ordinance.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Sure.
The township can control the placement of it, but how it operates would probably fall under the DNR.
Yeah, I'm asking because I don't know. I mean, I find it hard that state DNR is gonna ask our blessing for anything, and if we say no, there's a kibosh.
Well, no, I think it's the opposite. I think they would work with us, you know.
I think they
it's-
would work with us, but I mean, I didn't know where we are the ultimate authority in this Shiawassee River boat access versus the other lakes, or a lake connected to this access.
Yeah, again, right, because the ordinance talks about public boat launch, or public access launches, right? So that's what we would be regulating. I mean, there's other things, other state agencies would do, where they still need to get permits and approval from the local community, so it's,
So if the DNR was to request a second launch on Lake
If we
Geneva,
said no, I bet it would still go in. My
not if it was in conflicting with a local ordinance.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they couldn't sue, but I'm just saying, I think they would still have to follow the process.
Duly noted.
Mike, I really appreciated it. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Obviously, we're changing the ordinance to allow this, and I think it's a very good thing. I think more and more people are using the river for
Mhm.
kayaks and canoes, and to put in a public launch is great. I know that they put in a couple over in Holly. I was kind of surprised. Is this the only one we have of this type of launch in the township?
well, so first of all, we don't have a launch, right? We don't have an application, what
Right,
this,
right. Right.
we
Is-
do not currently have
We
any
don't
access.
currently have any that meet that criteria.
Correct.
I believe there's one in Linden.
Yeah, there's one in this.
Yeah, I think there is as
East
well.
of the
There's a
dam.
couple in Holly.
Yep.
There's
Well, I
one
thought,
on Fish
isn't there one in
Lake
the city of
Road.
Fenton too?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
there's one in
a
the
couple
city of Fenton,
launches
too.
on.
I just know one east of the dam and
Yeah.
no one. Have we talked to Argentine? I mean, we're literally, it's on our property and then the boats are immediately going into Argentine Township.
Well, we don't have an application yet,
Okay.
right? So this is an ordinance to affect the township as a whole, once we get an
I mean,
application.
it's right on the edge of our
Sure.
jurisdiction.
It would be a special use permit, right? So we would send out public notice, have public hearings, and,
I was thinking of being good neighbors.
yeah, definitely,
We had
what,
them on the Shiawassee
right.
River.
Once we get an application, then we would notify them. Until that point, I mean, we're looking at a zoning ordinance change, right? So and that's part of the discussion we had with the planning commission, right? We're not focusing just on this potential launch, right? We're focusing on the ordinance as a whole.
Right. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions from the board? All right, I need a motion to adopt the amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to permit public boat launch as a use permitted by special use permit in the agricultural zoning district as presented.
I'll support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Tucker's absent, Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopel,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Krug votes yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Tonight we have none. Moving on to new business, we have the 2024 Fenton Township meeting schedule. The proposed 2024 meeting schedule was included as a communication agenda item as discussed at the November 6th meeting. Board action is required to formally adopt the meeting schedule. Are there any further questions or comments from the board?
I do want to point out we've made a minor correction, and actually I'll give Mr. McKeon credit. He emailed me about it this morning. We somehow had the October meetings on the second and fourth Tuesdays instead of first and third. And so that's been corrected, and we're in good shape.
We're in good shape now. Any other questions or comments from the board? This will be our schedule for 2024. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the 2024 Fenton Township meeting schedule as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Krug votes yes. Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is PA 152 compliance, health insurance cost, selection of 2024 compliance method. Operations Manager Broco, will you explain?
Yes. Zoom this in again so I can read it. So each year, the board makes a decision regarding how the township will comply with PA 152 of 2011, which is the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act. There are three options for compliance. One is the default is the prescribed hard caps established by the state each year, and you see the memo, they are $7,700 for individual, $16,100 for two-person, and $21,000 for family. The second option is a flat 80-20 cost sharing arrangement where the employer pays no more than 80% of the total cost. And the third option is to opt out of the requirement altogether. A 2/3 majority vote of the township board is required to choose the 80-20 or to opt out. For every year since this came into law, the township board has selected the 80-20 cost sharing option to comply with the statute. Each approval is effective for 1 year, and the board needs to review this decision annually. So I'm recommending that the board again consider adopting the 80-20 option for 2024. I believe a flat percentage is the most equitable approach for all employees, and it would be more easily adaptable if we change plans in the future. I did include a quick comparison of how it would break down for the employees under the 80-20 versus hard cap. And because the premiums are based on the ages of the individuals covered, you've got a real disparity. Younger families would be under the cap and pay nothing, and old people like me would be paying a lot more. So the board, the 80-20, the people with lower premiums still benefit because their 20% ends up being less than my 20%, for instance. But it is more equitable, and the board has supported it each year, and I would recommend that we continue that.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Well, only that when we have negotiated with the union, they've never had a problem with the 80-20. It's never been
Correct.
an issue, so pretty well accepted. That's all.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, okay, I need a motion to continue the optional 80-20 rules for 2024 to comply with the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, Public Act 152 of 2011.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is support for amicus brief, 67 District Court versus County of Genesee. I'm sure we've all reviewed the memo in our packet. I do want our Township Attorney, Jack Belzer, to give us some input. He has some thoughts on this.
Okay, and just so everybody understands, my thoughts only relate to the township contributing money. It has nothing to do with who's right, who's wrong in that litigation. Even in the request from the local MTA, they use the word contribute. The board can't contribute to anything. You don't have a contract with anybody, so you're making a donation. And I don't think there's any authority to do that. You can't, and then I've attached an article from MTA.
Yep.
I don't think, and I'm not the sole person on this issue. I mean, all the municipal attorneys are different all over the place. Some are in favor, some say you can, some say you can't. I'm in the opinion that you can't do that. The matter's already being funded and litigated. This is an extra brief in favor of keeping the courts open. There's already two sides to this with attorneys. This is a third intervening party, the friend of the judges, so to speak, and the courts. And apart from all that, I just don't think you have the authority to do that. You're making a contribution, you have no right, you can't contribute to the Boy Scouts or Salvation Army or anything else. And there may or may not be a benefit to the township, and I don't think it matters. It's just, you're not part of that litigation and you're not allowed to contribute money.
Thanks,
That's my
Jack.
opinion, but
No, that's why you're sitting in that chair. Is there
Can
any other comments?
I
Yes?
ask a question or two? So we would be able to fund an amicus brief of our own if we wanted. I'm not saying we should, I'm just saying we could do that. The problem is that it's a donation to the effort to fund the amicus brief.
right, and even as far as like the township becoming involved in that litigation, those courts are set up, they're county courts, they're not, municipal courts. They're county courts set up by statute, and it's no different than saying where you want a police station located, which you have the authority for a police department and you can provide a location for them, but you have no authority under state law to decide where a court's gonna be. You have no authority to say how that court's funded, you have no authority to buy books for the library at that court, you have no responsibility to supply paper and pencil for the judges. And so, I even question if you could properly file an amicus brief, and amicus means friend. All the old guys know the Latin. I even question whether you could properly do that, because you really don't have a horse in the race.
Okay, so, yeah, so then it's not just like the wording of it as a voluntary contribution to the effort, it's also the filing of an amicus
Right,
brief
what-
altogether.
Fenton Township has no specific statutory obligation to the courts.
Okay.
And so, that kind of stops everything. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you,
Do I
Jack.
think something major bad is gonna happen if you contribute? Probably not. And then besides, all the parties that are going on, the winner's gonna collect some money from the loser. And once you put some money in, the likelihood of getting something back is, in my experience, close to zero.
All right, thanks, Jack. Did you have two questions? Okay. Or-
No, I guess those were my questions for Jack. I would be interested in whether we could support it in some non-monetary way. If we can't support it monetarily, if we can, I don't know, maybe just have like a resolution supporting, or expressing our desire for the courts to stay in the township. That wasn't a, financial obligation if we can't make the financial obligation.
A number of municipalities have in fact done that. And your county commissioner, Mr. Shoemaker, has been real involved with all that.
I'm sure the board could authorize me to write a letter of support if it so chooses.
That might be quicker than trying to get a resolution together.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Because I think this is being decided, or it's being heard next week.
Yeah, you had a conversation, correct? And we needed to make a decision on the contribution
Yeah,
at this
I think
meeting.
The others that were making decisions on this were calling special meetings to address it because of the timing.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the board? Any direction that you'd like to?
I like supporting that direction. Maybe just providing a letter that says the township would support on behalf of the residents maintaining these courts locally.
I'm certainly in support of keeping the court here locally.
Yeah, I just want-
I don't think our residents should have to drive downtown to.
Do you want a motion to authorize you to submit a letter then?
Yeah,
Is that what
would
you
somebody
want?
mind making a motion?
Sure.
Kate, why don't you do that?
I'll make a motion, to authorize, Township Supervisor Vince Lorraine to, write a letter, expressing, the township board's desire on behalf of our residents to keep the courts, local, so that our residents don't have all the expenses of going to the courts in the county.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Gopal?
Yes.
I vote yes. Pardon me. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Petrick,
Yes.
Tucker is absent. Kessler,
Yes.
motion passes.
I'll draft that. They need that quickly, right? I guess just no different than the monetary. All right, moving on, the next business order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns? All right, we will now move on to public comment. This public comment is on agenda or non-agenda items. We will now open this meeting for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board?
Good afternoon, my name is Jeff Clothier, and I am going to announce my candidacy for the 67th District Court Judge, and I brought everybody a pen. So if you like me, you can remember my name, and if you don't like me, you can pass it out to someone who looks like they may commit a crime in the future. So
Thank you.
Still support my business one way or another. And Jack probably has a couple of those anyway. It's interesting. And first of all, I'd like to introduce my wife, Brooke Clothier. You may be wondering why I'm running for 67th District Court in Grand Blanc. Judge Odette is retiring, and I'm going to try to keep it really brief, but when attorneys say that, it's usually not the case. But Grand Blanc and Fenton, for the board probably knows, are like brother and sister courts, so you can live in Fenton and run for Grand Blanc. You could live in Grand Blanc, Linden, Swartz Creek, and run for the Fenton job. Judge Odette is not going to run for re-election, so it's an open seat. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in Flint. My mom was my 6th grade teacher. My dad was my assistant principal at Flint Southwestern. I went to Michigan undergrad, Michigan State Law School, raised 3 daughters in Grand Blanc. My family owns Little Joe's in Grand Blanc, and we were strong ties to the community. My kids are all grown. I worked for Judge Yotis as a law clerk, and then opened my own business 28 years ago, and I've been practicing primarily criminal defense work for the past 28 years. My kids are all grown. I'm looking for a new challenge. I think I'm probably the most talented person that's running, most experienced, and it's ironic that the issue of the courts either combining, it was brought up because I have very strong personality about that. As a defense attorney, and Jack knows this because we do battle all the time, often every Thursday I run to Fenton Court, then I have to run to Flushing, then I have to run downtown. And so from an attorney's perspective, it's a pain, and it would be really nice to have one court where we could go. But from a realistic standpoint, I think it would be a tragedy. Jack and I have had a number of cases where neighbors are fighting, and to have them go down Flint to litigate their issues and have Fenton Township or Sheriff's Department have to go to Flint. Now, the Sheriff's Department's a little bit interchangeable, but just think about if you were in Argentine, now you're tying up an Argentine police officer who's now downtown Flint, probably going to make more overtime. It's going to be a cluster downtown, and I just have a strong opinion that the courts are there for the community. And if you're a 65-year-old woman living in Fenton and you want to contest a speeding ticket, you're not going to go to Flint to do it. And if you want to pay a speeding ticket and you don't trust the mail, you're probably not going to pay the speeding ticket, so it'll just go into default. And so a lot of these fines will probably never be collected, because if you have to go to Fenton to pay a fine, you pay it. If you have to go to Grand Blanc, you pay it. If you have to go to Mount Morris, you pay it. But anyway, that's just my perspective on that. I'm happy to answer anybody's question. I'm not asking for anybody's endorsement. I just want to introduce myself. And if anybody has any questions for me, but I'll be around, and hopefully down the line I will ask for your endorsement. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak.
All right, any questions at all from the board? Thank you very much for attending this evening.
Thank you very much for having
You
me.
failed to mention about all the good parking downtown.
Yeah, my office is right downtown, and there's no parking. Saginaw Street's torn up. It's horrible.
Is there anybody else here that is in attendance that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? All right, hearing none, we will move on to Zoom. Don, you're the only one. Would you like to address the board on agenda item or non-agenda item? He says no. How did you see that?
Bottom right.
Bottom right.
Oh, all right.
Gotta be quick.
All right. Well, before we adjourn, I'd like to wish this board, the staff that's here, those that are attending in person, those are attending via Zoom, and certainly those that will be watching this video on YouTube later. A happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully it will be a blessed Thanksgiving with you and your family. So,
Same to you and yours.
all right. It is now 7:11 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night, and the meeting is adjourned.